Assalamu alaikum, good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of Talking Points. I'm your host, Syed Neaz Ahmad. In our studios today we have a young man. He is a Rolls-Royce scholar at Oxford University doing his DSc, a doctorate in aerospace science. He has been to Studgate University where he did his graduation and then post-graduation, and now he is doing his doctorate at Oxford. He's always talking about outer space, but a very down-to-earth gentleman. He has traveled all the way from Oxford only for this show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure.
Well, I understand that you were inspired by a very old animated film show, British animated film, Thunderbirds Are Go,
That
International
is true,
Rescue, and that inspired you to go into studying space.
That is true, and
Yes.
and maybe on top of that, if I may. So, I was very ill when I was young, so I was actually hospitalized for most of my time, and I did not go to school when I was young. So I used to watch all these programs, and also I had a book where there's a photo of a space shuttle.
Right.
So that made me think that one day I'll explore the world and maybe even beyond.
One day you met Buzz Aldrin, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
We'll talk about that later.
Sure.
Well, I read that you were at Mymensingh, and when you finished your school, you went to Germany, Stuttgart.
Yes, that's right.
And it's the same subject that you are pursuing all this time, isn't it?
Yes, so I did my bachelor's, my undergrad degree in aerospace engineering, so it's the science of planes and rockets.
Right.
And I did my master's there as well. And my
Right.
specialization is very high speed flow
Yeah.
and jet propulsion.
Right. So when you say that, I mean, right now you're working at this hypersonic space vehicles, you see,
Exactly.
and how it can be, the engines can be cooled, or how it can be cooled, you see.
Yes.
And you will be using, was it ceramics or something?
That is right. So what is a hypersonic vehicle first? So a hypersonic vehicle is a vehicle, i.e. it could be a rocket or
Right.
a space plane, that goes 5 times or greater than the speed of sound.
Yeah.
So just to give you a context, when we fly today, that's below the speed of sound.
Right.
So it's about 85% of speed of sound.
Right.
And the Concorde was flying at twice the speed of
Yes.
sound.
Yes.
So
That's why it flew over oceans.
Yes, exactly. So now we're entering a different time where we're foreseeing hypersonic aircraft, space planes, or reusable rockets. So what I do at Oxford is really trying to come up with a cooling method for rockets or re-entry vehicles, so vehicles that come back to Earth,
Right.
and which are hypersonic, so they're flying at 5 times even greater than the speed of sound. And the challenge is, if you imagine when if you have friction, it generates heat.
Right.
So if you're going at that speed,
Right. See.
we're talking about speeds at, say, 17,000 kilometers an hour. So when you're going that fast, due to the friction, the aerodynamic heating occurs, and the outer temperature of your vehicle, so the airflow around the vehicle, the temperature could be about 12,000 degrees Celsius. So no material that we know would survive that.
Right.
So now we're trying to come up with a method where we would put ceramic panels on those aircraft or space planes, which would be porous. So they'll have lots of teeny tiny holes. And from inside the aircraft, we're going to inject a coolant gas. It could be helium, nitrogen, or a gas like that. So what that would do is it will create a coolant layer on top of the vehicle, the rocket.
Right.
So, and that will keep it insulated from the heat. How does it work? When it's winter, we wear a jumper, right? And that keeps our heat within our body. And the reason is, within those weaves, air is trapped. So air or other gases are very good insulators. So this is our idea, and that's exactly what my PhD is about.
Right. Is this the basic problem of space travel?
Yes,
Cooling.
so it's one of the most important aspects of rockets or high-speed flight.
How are they managing now? I mean, when this.
So that's a very good question. So, and this is why the added value of our project is that we're trying to make things reusable. So if you inject the coolant, once you're back home, you can always refuel.
Right.
So what they do today, they use the so-called ablation method, which is a very good method. But the issue with that is you have to. So essentially, what it is, you have a rocket, and in general terms, you just put on extra material that melts off as you come down to Earth, as you cruise through the atmosphere. So every time you fly, you have to reset those ablators. And therefore, rockets today, they're not reusable. Every rocket we send out, we're essentially throwing them away. So if we want to have human hypersonic flight or rockets that can carry human beings, we want them to be reusable so that it's affordable. Imagine flying today on a Boeing 747, which is about $400 million. If you had to throw it away, your ticket would be about $1 million.
Right.
So that's what's happening in the space industry today. So we're trying to make this cooling technology so that rockets can go to orbit and come back again and refuel and go back again, so on and so forth.
In your lab here, do you create that situation where it can be?
Yes,
it
so
can
we
generate that
have
kind of heat with that kind of speed and friction.
Yes, so we have dedicated tunnels at our lab where we can actually see the flow happening. So it's not computer simulations.
Real tunnels or just they look like tunnels?
No, these are very large tunnels, long tunnels, and we can actually create the airflow that happens up there. So we can match the aerodynamics and see what's happening. And that's something that is very different from computer simulations, because the simulations are only as good as your inputs. We're not, if you're just simulating, you're not sure about what's happening in the real world. So we try to create that, and that's how we do experiments.
It's all because of you've got the funds, you're doing this research, see. But who is going to buy this technology? I mean, this information, this knowledge?
Well, if you look at the market, the aerospace market today, Asia's growing very rapidly. So we have more hubs that we want to go to, and we have a globalized world now. So NASA's trying to come up with their supersonic model. There's a company called Boom. They're bringing up a model just like the Concorde, but it's going to be very quiet. So you can see that there is a need in the market, and people are trying to do it because time is very important in today's life.
For outer space travel.
So you have different applications of these technologies. So when I talk about hypersonics, flying at very high speeds, it could be of two uses. So firstly, you can go from a point to point in the Earth. So you're flying from point A to B anywhere in the world within 2 hours. So anywhere you want to go, it's going to take you 2 hours. So it could be Australia, New York, you name it. And that's buying time.
But is it going to be like Concorde? Is it going to be very expensive? Initially, perhaps, yes.
Initially, I think yes, but it will go down very quickly, hopefully. I mean, we can't really predict these things now, but we hope that it will go down because it's a complex system. We have to, if there's an economic crisis, for example, I think we would then be hampered. But
that's what they said about Concorde. It was very good, but you know, people couldn't afford it, so it died.
So the thing is that we're looking at different technologies today, and there are lots of promising technologies coming out, even from the propulsion side, so engine side. So we might see more efficient engines. I mean, today's engines are a lot more efficient than what we had at that time. And the designs are also very efficient today.
You mean Concorde's engines were not as efficient as the ones that we have today?
Well, it's always incremental. Like, even if you look at your car's engine, like 30 years ago, it's very different. So we do have better technology now and a better understanding of what's happening. And we have a globalized world today where the economic is also good in Asia, parts of Asia. So we can actually fly to those places, which was not the case for the Concorde. It really had a very slim market.
Niche market,
Yes.
you see. They had to fly only on oceans.
Yes, exactly.
And they had to find oceans to fly over.
That's correct.
Well, you were a visiting research scholar at the University of Arizona.
Yes. Right.
What research did you do there?
So there I did computer simulations on supercomputers. So there I also worked on high-speed flow, that was supersonic.
What is a supercomputer?
A supercomputer is just a very fast computer, to put it in a simple way.
It's not the size.
No.
I remember
It's
having seen the first computer that in my
Yes.
life, you see, that was in London. I visited a publisher that was, I think, early 70s, and the gentleman was kind enough, and he took me. It was in central London, and within 4 years, they just moved out of London because they couldn't afford that. See, it was like a factory. You see, this full of noise, broadsheets, this and that, machines going up and down. And I said, "What is it?" And it's a computer.
So yes, I mean today our computers at home are very small, of course, but supercomputers today, they can be quite large because they're in clusters. So you do have a designated area where they're set, and you just send your jobs and simulate it.
What jobs can they do that our computers can't?
Oh, it's more about the speed, really. It's the computing power that's very high compared to what we have at home.
Talking of computers, I mean, do you think that, I mean, there are so many like avenues and lanes that are opening up, like robotics and driverless cars, and from battery-operated cars to driverless cars to cars that will drive on their own and without any instruction at all.
Exactly.
And it's all computers, isn't it? You see, the computers.
It's all computers, yes.
And we'll talk about that, see. But right now, you were also at Airbus, A380.
Yes, I worked
You were
at the
research
A380.
student at A380.
Right,
see.
correct.
Are they using A380 right now?
Yes, it's actually the largest passenger aircraft at the moment. So, for example, Emirates has the most number of A380s. So it's a double-decker airliner, yes.
When you did your BSc and MSc in Stuttgart, the same subject, aerospace, but what were you trying to, I mean, go into? I mean, for masters you did something, and in BSc you did something. Yes. Was it a course or was it a research?
Oh, so for the bachelor's we had courses on aerospace engineering in general. So we had aeronautics, so anything that flies within the atmosphere, and astronautics, anything that flies outside of the atmosphere. And we had lots of courses, so we had 2 semesters a year, and every semester roughly would have 8 to 10 exams and courses. So a diverse range of courses are offered in Stuttgart. It's actually the largest aerospace faculty in Europe, so you can pick from a very large catalogue of courses.
Are they far ahead than most of the other countries in Europe?
Well, they are quite prominent in that field because 80% of the aerospace engineers in Germany come from Stuttgart. So I think that is quite impressive.
That's the home of
aerospace engineering at the moment. I would like to say so, but I'm biased, obviously.
And you came over to Oxford in October 2016.
Yes, that's correct.
And how far have you been into the completion of your research?
Well, I think so. We do experiments. So you have a lot of engineering work to do at first.
Right.
So you have to design your own rig, whatever you want to test. You have to design it, calculate what you have to calculate, and then make those rigs. So it's going to require time. So I've gone through all that now. It's more about how we can apply this to a particular problem, and maybe, probably, hopefully, put something out there which would be useful. So my bigger picture of this research is maybe this will enable us to fly as normal human beings, not being astronauts, but normal human beings, to go online, book a ticket, and go to orbit or go to another country within 2 hours.
A modern international rescue of Thunderbirds.
Yes.
That would be a good idea, you see. Well, we'll need to take a break here, and then when we come back, we'll again go back to space.
Sure.
Thank you for being with us. We need to have this short break. Don't go away. Back soon.